morning. My name's John Denny, and I've started a company called Alaeras that develops dry powder vaccines that you would inhale intranasally. And the advantage, of course, of an inhaled vaccine is that there's no needle involved. The advantage of a dry powder vaccine is that it's stable at room temperature and it doesn't require any refrigeration, which I think is a major selling point. We have a license, an exclusive global license to develop a rotavirus vaccine. And the need for this is immense. It kills about a million children every year. But it's also a platform technology that I think could be used to develop a number of different vaccines. Our strategy and our strength is to design the device and the formulation and the manufacturing process in-house. And I'm proud of that, but I'm even more proud of the team that we've assembled. I have about 30 years' experience designing new products and pharmaceutical devices, and our scientific team, who currently work at Duke and UNC, have about 50 years of dry powder vaccine development. They've worked on anthrax, HIV, and flu vaccines. Now, our funding, we're looking at all avenues for funding, but we've already talked to the NIH, Gates Foundation, and the Center for Disease Control, and there's been a lot of interest. So I think that ultimately we'll get grants to develop these vaccines. But in the short term, we're looking for approximately $1 million to finish the device design, to file the IP, to develop the formulation, and to do some early testing in vitro as well as in small animals. Our exit strategy is to take it to phase 1 completion and then look for a partner or to sell the company. So if you have more time, I'd like to get into more detail with the folks at BSK.
I'll start off with a quick question. Who are your competitors?
Well, traditional vaccine companies are our competitors that are in the market now. All vaccines that I know of are refrigerated, but Merck certainly, GSK, Novartis, Sanofi, Aventis. We also have competitors in the device field that are working on devices that will deliver vaccines primarily in the pulmonary means, and most of these are European companies. And there are two companies that I know of that are actually working on a powder vaccine, but they don't have a delivery system.
Do you have any, it's pretty impressive that you're breaking the need for cold chain supply. Now what I'm curious about is what about dose response? Do you have any data on that?
Not yet. The folks at Duke have been working on vaccines for several years now, and they've done studies with a flu vaccine in rabbits and mice, and they've got good response from that. But we're so early that we haven't done any testing ourselves yet.
And that flu response is also a powder vaccine?
Yes, it's
okay.
a powder. Sometimes they actually make it into a liquid to make it a little bit easier to get in the animal, but they start out as a powder.
You had talked about in the future you were looking towards grants. Where is your current funding coming from at this point? Right
now I'm funding this myself, and we're also using some of the working capital that the folks at Duke and UNC and another nonprofit company called Global Vaccines can provide.
Just there's been a lot of interest in powder delivery of pharmaceuticals. There's not been a lot of success there for reasons that they didn't anticipate. I'm thinking of powdered insulin and others. Can you quickly, because I'm not an expert in the field, although my team back at the company is, can you tell me why we're not going to find out later that it causes some pulmonary problem or nasal problem?
Well, I mean, you're absolutely correct that there is a treacherous road of delivering powders into the body, and Exubera from Pfizer is a classic example of inhaled insulin into the lungs that actually had some bad side effects and was taken off the market. So I think in the future the FDA is really going to look strictly at approving a product that you would inhale into your lungs. That's one of the reasons that we decided to go with the nasal cavity instead of the lungs. We think that it's a shorter barrier to get FDA approval by delivering a vaccine to the nasal cavity instead of into the lungs and through the body. Okay, I'd like to thank the people at BSK for letting me speak to them. This is my agenda. I'll talk a little bit more in detail about my company and the products. I want to talk a little bit about the market opportunity that I see for BSK and how Alaeras can help you grow your business. A little bit of discussion about the management team and then our exit strategy. Alaeras started off as a drug delivery company. About a month ago, we received a license to develop a powder nasal vaccine for rotavirus. This is a platform technology that can be used to deliver many different vaccines, and we're looking for funding to finalize the device design and to conduct early studies. If you have any questions along the way, just go ahead and ask them as I go through this. More details on the rotavirus vaccine follow, but we've developed a novel device that is low cost and disposable. It would handle one dose of a vaccine, you would inhale and then throw it away. We have an IP for the...
Excuse me, what terms would you like for us to possibly license your technology?
I'm sorry?
What terms are you interested in licensing the technology? You know, that's what we're here to look at, is to buy your technology. Are you ready to talk about terms, et cetera? We've reviewed your overview. It looks very, very exciting. And I'm just wondering what you want from us. Is it just funding, or do you want us to buy your technology?
Initially, we are looking to partner with a pharmaceutical company.
Okay.
We already have a drug that you already sell called Rotarix in a liquid form. So I think there's some synergies that this might be a next generation vaccine for BSK. So initially, we're looking for short-term funding. I think down the road, we will keep our eye on partnering with you to develop the rotavirus vaccine that you could take to market.
As far as your short-term funding goes, I seem to recall you talked about you needing $1 million. Do you have a breakdown of exactly what that money would be applied to? As far as
yes, I do. I don't have a slide for that, but it actually is about $700,000. Most of that is for device design, development, prototyping. There's some IP filing expenses in there.
Device design of the delivery device?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, the advantage to a powder vaccine is that there's no needle involved. I've already said that. And the nasal vaccines are more efficient than an oral vaccine that goes through the gastrointestinal system. The powders don't have to be refrigerated, which I think is a major selling point. And in general, the low cost of goods make it attractive for people in developing countries. As you know, the vaccine market will be about $21 billion by the year 2010, and you already produce 25% of those vaccines. And I did a little homework that you have 8 vaccines in the rotavirus, diphtheria, and hepatitis area. And in the pipeline, you have vaccines that you're working on for cancer, HIV, malaria, TB, and flu. So I think in that pipeline, there may be some other candidates that we could formulate into a powder and test them in our delivery system.
Excuse me. Do you have your view? We certainly have our own view about the market pull for a product that doesn't need a cold chain. I mean, the odd thing is that, you know, in the developed world, yes, it's a cold chain, but they know how that works, and so you pull a vaccine out of the regular way of distribution, and actually, there's some evidence to say it's a disadvantage, just because there is a refrigerator in every hospital in Europe and the United States. So, where do you think we should? Where do you think we should be going for the marketplace? You know, is this only for our? We have a number of programs in vaccines that we think are going to be mostly in the developing world. Is that really where you think this technology should go, or do you think we should be looking at this for the developed world as well?
Well, I think the idea that we had for rotavirus is that it's 1 million deaths a year occur, and almost all are in developing countries. The Western world, it's not as big of an issue. Now, the thing that's unique about rotavirus is it's usually delivered to infants and newborns, so that there are some particulars about the device design that are going to have to be designed for a child. I think that the target for this is in the developing countries, and in these countries like India, China, South America, refrigeration is a big problem, and they have a very difficult time getting the vaccine to the patient. So I think that answers your question.
Well, no, it's really a question of if we partner with you, what your vision is, commercial vision, because you know, our work in TB is really done you know, out of our definite concern for the world, but you know, it's never going to make us any money. So we can't actually develop very expensive technologies to solve a problem where we can't actually make any money. We're trying to pull some of these programs on a shoestring ourselves. And I just wonder whether, if we partnered with you, would we be at odds with you because you actually have a vision for the technology in the developed world, or commercially, you know, how aligned are we?
Well, I think that's probably a more complicated question. I think that this being a platform technology, these vaccines are going to serve different markets. And my vision is that for some diseases such as rotavirus, it is going to be designed for the developing markets around the world. Other novel therapies for the Western world may require a slightly different strategy. So I think it's more complicated than just always for the underdeveloped countries and always for the
as you know, the rotavirus clinical program for us has been horrendously expensive, and regulators have put enormous barriers in front of us. With I think that last phase 3 trial was 25,000 patients. It was enormously expensive, and you know, I think the question is, are we ever going to see that investment back?
Well, I think so. Part of the development process is somehow, I believe that the rotavirus vaccine from another company, Wyeth, was pulled off the market in 1999. We would have to do some early testing to show that our vaccines don't cause the same problem. And I think that might minimize some of the risk of doing these very expensive clinical trials, like you say, have cost hundreds of millions of dollars to do. Okay. How can we help BSK? Well, this will be a platform technology that will be first to market. We have strong IP for the drug, for the device, and the manufacturing process, which is a proprietary spray freeze drying process. Strategically, it will increase BSK's access to developing countries due to the powder stability and the lower cost of goods. And we bring a proven track record of streamlined design and development. Now, the success and the strength that we bring is that this is a complicated business. It involves the coordination of a delivery system, a formulation, adjuvants, a route to get into the body to create the vaccine. And all these are interrelated to each other. And it requires constant communication with all these parties to make this a success. And that's the advantage that we bring. We have all of this under one roof. All the development is done in North Carolina. We have a collaboration between us, University of North Carolina, Duke, a nonprofit called Global Vaccines and RTP, the Hamner Institute, and NC State. One of our partners, Global Vaccines, is also one of our customers, and they have the ability to distribute vaccines around the world. So when we develop this vaccine, they could become one of our customers. A little bit about the management team. Tony Hickey, Herman Statz have about 20 years of experience developing dry powder vaccines. They have worked on an anthrax vaccine that's been stable at room temperature for almost 2 years without losing its potency. Clayton Beard has about 20 years experience with vaccine development. And I put together a pretty impressive group of supply people in the supply chain. Sortimat, Herr Hofflinger, state-of-the-art equipment and powder filling companies. Hamner Institute has developed a three-dimensional CAD model of nasal cavities that's really going to be invaluable to help us design the device. I talked a little bit about the funding. The initial funding will be used to accomplish these, to finish the design of the device, to formulate the vaccine over at UNC and Duke for small quantities, to start writing grant requests from the various agencies that I mentioned previously, to finalize all the licensing and the IP arrangements from Duke, UNC, and Global Vaccines, and to file them, and then finally to conduct testing with a prototype device with the rotavirus vaccine in vitro and in small animals. Cost of goods is crucial.
Excuse me one second, I need to interrupt. As
That's
far
okay.
as IP, you talked about finalizing the licensing of technology and transfers. What, you just have exclusive licenses at this point and looking to transfer that over to your company, or what exactly
Yes,
is
we
your
have an
plan?
exclusive license from Global Vaccines to produce the rotavirus vaccine. There is also IP at Duke for adjuvants, and at UNC for the manufacturing process that we're in the process of getting licensed in. I'd like to have an exclusive. At this point, I haven't finalized that yet.
Okay.
And the quid pro quo for our possibly investing and partnering with you is, what do you propose?
I'm sorry?
What is the quid pro quo? If we were to help you with the infusion of cash, what would you give back to us?
I think it would help you increase your vaccine portfolio.
So part of the revenue sales is what you're proposing to us, or?
Yeah, and I think we use a very transparent costing system, and I know that BSK has that kind of a policy, so we're very open to show you exactly what the cost of the device and the formulation are. I talked a little bit about the criticality of this cost of goods for developing countries. 15 cents to mold the device. I think it can be made out of 1 or 2 pieces of plastic. The rotavirus vaccine is very straightforward to make, so I think in quantities that could be formulated for about 20 cents a piece. And then packaging is minimal, and so the cost of goods for this is in the 40-cent range.
You have an impressive background in rotavirus, and the freeze drying powder is an important part of the package here. We'll have our technical people look at the stability data. Obviously, stability at room temperature is nice, but it's not the developing world issue. You probably should do the testing in the glove compartment of a car parked in the parking lot in the summer. I just wonder how general. Do you know how general this would be to other vaccines, or is this really a rotavirus pitch right now with a possibility of extension?
No, I think that it really is a platform, and at Duke and UNC, they've made vaccines for anthrax and for flu, and they've had the anthrax on stability for almost 2 years now, both at ambient and at elevated ambient, and they haven't noticed a drop-off in potency. So I think that this process lends itself to many different vaccines and not really limited to the rotavirus. And I talked a little bit about exit strategy, and I guess it's time for me to exit.
Good ending.